Welcome to the Waiver Wire Show presented by Legit Football. Brian McFadden here, co-founder of Legit Football. I'm joined by Phillip Fox. Kevin, we are rolling into week 4. I can't believe 3 weeks are already gone in the NFL. Where'd the time go?
Blink of an eye, Brian. Week 4 it used to be scary because it meant a quarter of the season, but now it basically means a fifth of the season, closer to a
Add
fifth
on that
than a
extra
fourth.
week, and suddenly it
Yeah,
feels like we still have a lot of football
we're
left, which
good.
we do.
We're
So,
good.
Kevin, we debuted this show last week. We keep it short. We keep it simple.
Hell
We're
yeah.
just letting the people know who we think they should pick up on the waiver wire this week. For today, we'll introduce a little bit of an addition to that. We're going to actually recap our picks from last week, see how they
I
did.
like that. I like little accountability baked into the
Little
show.
accountability. So you
I love
guys
it.
that are watching and listening can come to us and say, well, that pick you told me to do, well, it lost me my week. Or,
Yeah.
hey, you guys, I won my week because of you. So we'll start with that. Kevin, I think we're going to do the same way we do the pickups. So let's just go position by position. So with
Yeah.
week 3 in mind at the quarterback position, I recommended quarterback Jordan Love. You recommended Baker Mayfield.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Any comments?
You know, I do. I'll say it with my chest. Like Philly was hemorrhaging yards to the quarterback position, and I was kind of projecting a big garbage time. Unfortunately, Philly took the 2-minute drill from the 4-minute drill to the 8-minute drill to the 11-minute drill. So that entire last drive that I was counting on, maybe even 2, was just Philly just absolutely stifling on offense with Kenny Gainwell getting 3 yards to carry, perfectly milking the entire rest of the clock. So it looked, 146 and a tud and a 2-point conversion. It's not. I would say it's not a full game, but I would say it's also an L of a pick for first.
Well, and in fairness, quarterback is probably the position most likely. You're not going to find gems on the quarterback
It's a deep stream.
waiver wire.
Yeah.
So
I called my shot.
we're trying. Baker
Yeah.
certainly was good for the first 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Jordan Love, though, continued to produce. Now, in fairness, for the first 3 quarters, didn't do anything. And then
Yeah.
managed the Packers themselves had not scored any points, scored 18 points in the fourth, including a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown by Jordan Love.
Yep.
QB6 on the week. He continues to produce consistently. Jordan Love, by the way, still under 50% owned in most leagues, it looks like. So we'll repeat that for this week. Going on to the running back position, I recommended Tyjae Spears as a stash. How about he once again outsnapped Derrick Henry? Once again, I didn't say to start Tyjae, but you put him on your bench. Derrick Henry might finally be slowing down at age 38 or however old he is these days, Kevin.
Definitely less than 38, but yeah, he's up there. No, it was a great pickup, and yeah, dude, Spears, he has league winning potential if he can get in there and take the reins from Henry. It would be shocking to see, but crazier things have happened in fantasy football for sure.
I mean, the fact that 2 out of 3 games he's already outsnapped him, he's getting touches even with Henry on the field. If Henry does suffer an injury, like you said, league winner.
Absolutely.
I let you have the Jerome Ford pick last week, and it was a slam dunk.
It worked out well. He was a risky start. I wasn't banging the drum to start him, but I'm not mad at the result. RB7, definitely an exciting and solid outcome if you just got him off the waiver wire or spent an insane amount of fab like I told you to. Brian was a little more conservative with his fab recommendation on Jerome Ford, and I think time will tell whether or not all of that was worth it. Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
Well,
Trading Ford.
I'm not going to mention who I have for my running back pick this week. It's not going to be a shocker to anyone, especially if they know my fandom. But if I spent all my fob on Jerome Ford, I wouldn't have any of it left for the guy I'm going to mention. Let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver from last week. Kevin, you had Jaden Reed from the Packers.
That's right. And he had a nice little game, 3 for 63.
7 targets. He's still getting targets.
You're not thrilled if you started him, but as a bench stash in an offense where Jordan Love is one of the highest fantasy quarterbacks right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty at the weapons. I do really like what I'm seeing from one of your waiver pickups today, and Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. It hasn't been healthy yet, so it'll be fun to see what happens there. But Jaden Reed is absolutely in play as a season-long stash, sort of wide receiver 2 upside if he can crack the consistent target share.
And not that he would be on the waivers in Dynasty, but a really, really good Dynasty value. This is my biggest victory lap. Tank Dell, who has been one of my...
Good boy.
I got him in every single Dynasty league that I'm in. So here in Redraft, the debut of the waiver wire, I go out and pick Tank Dell last week. And what does he do? He only goes out and puts up a wide receiver 7 production, 145 yards, and a beautiful deep touchdown, multiple deep plays. That's not really what Tank Dell is known for. He's more of a separator, great route runner, yards after catch guy. He's getting deep plays in this surprisingly fun Texans offense.
Yeah, and you actually mentioned wide receiver 7, and I think on a normal week he would have been like wide receiver 3 to 5 range, but there was a lot of explosions this week, as we know. So Tank Dell, in the leagues that I'm in, where I have him because I listened to you, he had like 29 points. So,
I helped somebody out. At least I helped Kevin
already.
All right, let's move to the tight end position. Not so much of a win. This is a guy, Zach Ertz, for me, who had been getting a lot of targets, walked away with only 2 targets on the day for a tight end 38 finish for the Cardinals. Part of the reason, though, they were just running all over the Cowboys. I don't think anybody saw that coming, Kev. And
it was shocking.
Sure. Both of us took an L on the tight end position. You had Dawson Knox. Also 2 targets.
Touchdown bounced off his hands. Brian, I'm gonna bang this drum for our listeners on this show. Process over results. Brian's process was sound. There was a lot of targets. My process was sound. There was a lot of touchdowns. The ball bounces the other way sometimes. Process over results.
Who would have thought that James Conner would run all over the vaunted Cowboys defense? These are the kind of things that you can't really predict. Let's finish just quickly mentioning the 2 defenses we recommended and then jump into what everybody's waiting for, which is the week 4 waiver wire picks.
Yes, sir.
So last week I recommended the Patriots. Easy slam dunk. I'm not going to say I had any fancy analysis here. They did walk away with 10 fantasy points against Zach Wilson and the Jets, and you picked the Titans against the Browns. Still 7 points, even though the Browns trounced the Titans. The defense, special teams, certainly okay as a streamer. Kevin, are you ready to jump into week 4? The reason people are watching the show.
So ready. Cannot wait.
Okay, great. So as we do, we're going to start with the quarterback position, go all the way down just like we did for the recap. We'll try to give you an idea of FOB percentage depending on the player, but we'll keep it short and sweet because just give you guys the information that you need. All right, Kevin, we're going to let you kick it off at the quarterback position. Who are you recommending on the waiver wire this week?
Well, my quarterback that I'm recommending is the quarterback 14 already, and he's a rookie going into his 4th NFL start. I'm talking CJ Stroud. I was actually shocked to find out that he qualified for this segment because in every league that I'm in, he's rostered. But
he was not your first pick. I saw you writing in the doc, and I said, really?
You helped me.
I left CJ Stroud there for you because you've been on the Texans all offseason.
Been the biggest Texans truther all offseason. Love the pick of Stroud at 2nd overall. So excited. The weapons are crazy. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, Damian Pierce, Devin Singletary. Need I say more? Robert Woods. Who would have thought? A little resurgence happening. But 21 points and 20 points in his last 2 starts, and they play the Steelers, who have looked pretty hapless. So not only are you picking him up, Ryan, but throw him in your lineups. This is a good CJ Stroud matchup. I'm feeling good.
Real quick before I give my pick, let everybody know who your original QB pick was. Just real quick.
If Bryce Young doesn't go, Andy Dalton is a great streaming option for this upcoming week. Playing the Vikings should be an explosion.
And with my quarterback recommendation, it's crazy. I mean, that's the quarterback waiver wire for you that you recommended a possible Andy Dalton. And I'm going to recommend Jameis Winston. What is this 2018? What is going on here? Yeah. But look, we know Derek. We don't know for sure, but all signs are pointing that Derek Carr is going to miss next week.
A couple weeks, probably, theoretically.
Say what you want about Jameis. He has a top 5 quarterback fantasy finish in his career. It was like 4 years ago, but it is there. The Saints have great weapons with Olave, Michael Thomas playing really well, Raheed Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, Alvin Kamara coming back. There's going to be a lot of places for him to distribute the ball. It's a divisional game against the Bucs, his old team. So look, you could do worse if you have quarterback problems than putting Jameis Winston in against the Bucs as a 1 week streamer.
Yeah, I love it. Jameis, Mr. 30 for 30, man. I'll never forget the 30 pick, 30 tud season. He's a legend for sure. Fantasy legend.
All right, let's go on to the running back position. I'm going to start first on this one. This is the most obvious. A lot of times I like to give you the obvious. I like to give you the softballs, but
appreciate it.
My Miami Dolphins, Devon A-Chain. I'm sorry. He actually correct now that he's getting some pub. It's A-Chan.
Oh no.
It's not pronounced A-Chain. It's
I like how
A-Chan.
A-Chain sounds so much.
Oh,
It's gonna
it's
take me a
A-Chain
long
sounds.
time.
A-Chain sounds so
It's so
cool too.
cool. It's
Like,
so
if
cool.
you watch The Boys on Amazon Prime,
Yeah.
A-Train, A-Chain just
Yeah,
works.
literally.
No, it is A-Chan. Let's call him
Damn.
what his
All
actual
right.
name is.
Yeah.
How about over 200 yards rushing in his first real game action? He did play the week before and actually looked pretty good, but it was very limited touches. Over 200 yards rushing and 4 total touchdowns. This is a guy, and it's not just because I'm a Dolphins fan, Kev. This is a guy I would spend 100% of my fob on because the Dolphins have let him out of the can. They're not going to put him back in.
Yeah, it's league winning upside. I have him in most of my leagues because I felt the same way that you felt about him. And you know, seeing it was just confirmation bias for me. The health is going to be something to watch closely, but I like the sprinkling of Raheem in there. If Ahmed's healthy, when Wilson comes back, it's a very, very tricky backfield to navigate. But I mean, I don't know if it's going to be 70 points to go around every week.
55 points.
But
I
there's
don't
going to be
but the point is,
yeah,
his first real game action, he rushes for over 200 yards.
Yeah.
Jeff Wilson's never done that. Salvin Ahmed's never done that. The Dolphins understand what they have in A-Chan. I had to think about it.
I know.
So they only had, I think, 4 total draft picks, and one of them they spent on this guy. They understand his value. We've seen what this team of track stars can do. Right. Yes, I think Mostert is going to have a role. Mostert also had a fantastic game, but I actually don't think you're going to see much Wilson or Ahmed except the occasional spell. I think this is Mostert, this is A-Chan, and I think they're each going to be able to contribute in this very high-powered Dolphins offense.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love the player. I love the pick. I would probably go 80%.
I drafted him in one dynasty league. I'm so glad I did.
I have him in a couple. That's so fun.
Also a league I had Cam Akers, so I'm like, Akers out, A-Chan in.
Out with the old, in with the new.
All right, Kev, let everybody know who you've got for running back this week.
Yeah, so I started out with low-hanging fruit because there's one that's 41%, right? So that's kind of right on the line. We haven't really specified a line yet on this show.
I like the taste of this fruit, though, Kev.
Oh, this is good fruit. It's good fruit.
Good fruit.
Roschon Johnson, Roschon Johnson of the Bears, I think he's obviously a better player than Khalil Herbert. That there's going to be, you know, targets and touches to go around because of how much of a dumpster fire
he got I think it was only 1 or 2, but he actually out-carried Herbert in this game. They both had the same amount of receptions. Roschon was even slightly more efficient with those carries. I think it's only a matter of time before this is Roschon's backfield.
Yeah, and he's a really good player. They spent draft capital on him. You know, I definitely think Roschon Johnson. And then, like I did with Dalton, I'll go a little deeper for you just for stashes. Look at Sean Tucker for Tampa Bay. He's their backup running back right now. Rachaad White is just scary to me. Like, I just don't know if he's going to be able to hold on to that backfield. You know, it looked in the preseason like maybe possibly he was going to be a bell cow, but I'm not impressed, Brian. The eye test is not, I'm not, you know, no bells and whistles for me.
That bell cow is a very slow and sluggish bell cow. I don't see anything.
They're putting them out to pasture, not in due time.
Look at that. That's right.
Keep your eyes on Sean Tucker, just in case, you know, end of your bench, taxi squad type player.
All right, let's move on to the wide receiver position, Kevin. Who do you want to add for the waiver wire for wide receiver in week 4?
Yep, and I'm going to do what I always do. I got a 2-pack, right? I love talent and I love opportunity.
The assignment is pick 1, and Kev's like,
I got to pick 2
for every single
one.
There's
no way I cannot. But we both know, and I know you know from your pick, but the Mike Williams ACL tear, pour one out. You know, he's a fantasy darling. He's a big part of the reason why Justin Herbert's had so much success at the NFL level. But that being said, there's going to be a void of targets. There's going to be a void of opportunities. And they drafted Quentin Johnston with a first-round pick. He's very unowned, especially in redraft, like under 5%, I want to say. And even though he's been underwhelming, I mean, this is the time for him to step up. And they're going to be forced to give him looks, Brian. So Quentin Johnston would be my first. But wide receiver Josh Downs in Indy is just my
another of my draft darlings.
That's your boy. You
Downs and Dell were my 2 wide receivers that I love.
Yep, and he's also 4 catches, I believe, getting a lot of look, especially with Gardner. So
he had like
fun to see.
Over 10 targets in this game. He was just peppered with targets from Gardner Minshew, and he's been peppered with targets by Anthony Richardson prior to that. He hasn't had a lot of yardage. It's been he's operating pretty much exclusively in the slot. But man, when you have that much volume, something's going to pop.
Oh yeah, 100%, and the talent too. And yeah, I'm all in on Josh Downs. But again, stash. I wouldn't throw him in your lineups just yet. Actually, same with Johnson. I'd say both of those. Wait and see.
Downs is producing. Johnson, we still haven't really seen. And here's why. My wide receiver, and you mentioned that we're going to stay with the Chargers. This is an obvious one. Mike Williams, torn ACL, out for the season. Somebody is going to take that wide receiver 2 spot. It's Josh Palmer. In the past, when Mike Williams has missed, it's Josh Palmer who has played that role. He's actually much more physical, even though Quentin Johnson is a big guy. Quentin Johnson is actually had one of the lower percentages of contested catches in the NCAA last season. He is actually a yak guy. It doesn't look like it when you're looking at him. That's not the Mike Williams role. Josh Palmer is more likely to get those Mike Williams looks, those deep balls, those 50-50 contested catches, because they're going to have Keenan Allen apparently getting 15 and 20 targets a game. That's crazy. So he's going to get the majority of the volume. He's going to work the middle of the field, a lot of the crossers, the in breakers, the slants. But if they want deep balls, they're going to end up going to Josh Palmer. It doesn't mean Quentin Johnson won't get more opportunities. But if I'm choosing between the two of these guys as my one waiver wire pick for the Chargers, I'm going to go Josh Palmer.
And I'm going to just pull from something we talked about a lot on the Fantasy Q&A show last Thursday. Definitely tune in for the Fantasy Q&A show if you're here today. It's awesome. But I will say, I agree with you from a floor standpoint. I think Palmer has the objectively higher floor. I do think Johnson has the higher ceiling. We've seen Palmer. He hasn't really unlocked any sort of a crazy ceiling. We've seen him get opportunities. Mike Williams is no stranger to the IR. So, I think Quentin Johnson is the upside pick. So it depends on what you're looking for to fill that roster spot with. I'll say that.
I do agree that we have no idea what his ceiling is. The potential is there is much higher. I just think that if he's going to reach that, it's not going to be this season. So, and once again, if this is Dynasty, he got drafted probably in the first, maybe the second round. Literally. So he's not available on the waiver wire. So for this purposes, for redraft, which is mainly what we're talking about here, I think Josh Palmer is just going to be the safer pick to take those.
Safer for sure. No doubt safer.
Let's move on to the tight end position. I put in a claim for this guy in a few of my leagues, so if my league mates are watching or listening, I might be giving away the game. But I like tight end Luke Musgrave. Tight end 10 so far. Another one of his rookie tight ends between him and Laporta, who is not eligible for this, or he absolutely would have been at the top. He's owned in a lot of leagues. Tight end 10 through 3 weeks as a rookie tight end. 15 targets total through 3 games, including 8 Kevin last week in week 3. This is a guy that Jordan Love is looking to often.
Yeah, and part of what's so great about fantasy is the communal aspect. And I'm gonna draw on trade talks that we had for both players on our waiver wire list. Brian put Sam Laporta on his do not trade list. Brian will not trade Sam Laporta.
Not right now.
I was gonna throw him Dallas Goedert, and he would not even entertain the talks. So just so you guys know, he's putting his money where his mouth is with Laporta. Musgrave is great too. I really do love how Musgrave looks, and I love buying the Packers right now. As you know, for my Jaden Reed pick last week, Jordan Love is clearly, he might not be a Hall of Famer, but he's clearly good, right? He's at least going to be a top 16 quarterback in the NFL. So definitely worth taking a flyer on any of his main pass catching options.
And for those people who are like, oh, so many mouths to feed, you got to remember this is a LaFleur offense, which is a Shanahan offense. They can support multiple playmakers. They're going to get guys open. They're going to scheme guys open. Jordan Love has shown that he can run that system well. So add Jaden Reed, add Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson coming back, add Luke Musgrave, add them all. Maybe not on the same roster, but across various leagues.
Yeah, no, but they're absolutely all going to have their weeks, and they're all going to have pretty cozy floors, with Jordan Love proving to be a consistent scoring threat and winning threat. So, they're going to be playing inspired football down the stretch. So I'm all in on Packers weapons. Aaron Jones, obviously he's owned, but I think him coming back, he's going to be huge this year as well.
So your tight end pick, I'm going to let you reveal the name, but it says LOLOLOLOLO.
Yep. For my Zoomers, we all know what LOLOLOLOL means. It's like it's almost like embarrassing. It's almost like, oh, I'm admitting to something. So in our trade talks, Brian was trying to use Parham as a piece, and would
Chargers tight end. We're sticking with the Chargers.
Donald Parham. Dude, there's voids to be had with that's the big every week so far. There's been huge injury dominoes. There hasn't, I would say Mike Williams is literally huge, but he's the only real injury domino, I would say, from this week, that other than Derek Carr. But
and with Eckler out, by the way, apologies to all of you guys who ended up spending FOB on Joshua Kelly, but that running game has been non-existent. The defense is porous. So the advantage is these Chargers are
Yeah.
forced to pass a lot. Herbert's playing really well right now, so he can spread the ball off and support multiple pass catchers.
Someone's got to catch the ball, right? So Brian tried to sell me Parham and was like literally giving me like, hey, 2 touchdowns last week, like giving me a
one in week 1. Dude has 3 touchdowns in the red zone.
I did repeatedly call him poop. I believe
you did the
I
poop
used
emoji
poop
multiple times. Yeah.
So just so people know, like I don't love the talent. I don't love the player, but tight ends are disgusting. And the chance that Parham falls into the end zone is proving to be very high. He's averaging a touchdown a game through 3. So definitely you could do worse for your tight end flyers, like last week's waiver wire show.
That's true. Hopefully one of us hits something out of the tight ends this week.
Yeah.
Last week was not so great. Kev, why don't we
just are horrible?
Yeah, it is. Tight end landscape as usual is just a crapshoot. Let's close it out with your defensive streamer of the week, guys. I want to go ahead and cue it up now. This is a show where we just give our waiver wire picks. However, if you do have waiver specific questions while we're answering this DST streamer pick, feel free to throw them in the chat. And if we have some, we'll answer them. If not, make sure to check out the fantasy Q&A show tomorrow. We'll answer all your fantasy questions for a whole hour. Kev, who are you streaming if they're available in the waiver wire at defense this week?
Yes, sir. And this is going to sound gross. And you talked about being in on the Chargers. And I'm picking the Chargers to stream against the Vegas Raiders. Don't let the numbers fool you. The Chargers are not the worst streaming option, Brian. They did they've played the Titans, who are an objectively bad offense, but they have 7 fantasy points in each of their last
Ryan
2
Tannehill
games.
Looked like a Hall of Famer against this Chargers D.
He did. But they still had 7 fantasy points in that matchup, which as a streaming fantasy defense, it's not bad. And in a game where they gave up 400 yards to Kirk Cousins, Brian, they still produced 7 fantasy points, which means they have enough volatility, enough boom bust potential that they're playing Garoppolo. Okay. And Josh McDaniels,
or not, he's in concussion protocol.
Right. There you go. They're playing the Raiders, so even better. So, you need 8 points. Josh McDaniels is going to get you 3. And that's a recipe I want to be on the other side of in a fantasy matchup.
All right, my defensive streamer of the week, Cincinnati Bengals. Defense playing a little bit better each week, and they get the lowly Tennessee Titans. The Titans are 31st in total offensive yards right now and 30th in points per game. We talked about Derrick Henry not looking right. Ryan Tannehill, outside of the one game against the Chargers, I think they managed barely 100 total yards against the Browns. Now, the Browns defense is fantastic, but this is a Bengals team that just sacked Matthew Stafford 6 times on Monday Night Football. Finished with 11 fantasy points. So I love the upward trajectory of this Bengals defense, and they get a juicy matchup. So if Cincinnati is out there, go ahead and stream them. So
couldn't agree more.
We got a non-waiver question because it is the only question. Oh, we got one is, are you offering therapy for Achane benchers? Dude, everybody benched Achane. Nobody was starting him. But let's answer this one question from Joe Holland. Appreciate it. Should I drop Treylon Burks for Josh Downs? I like this specifically because you mentioned Downs as a waiver wire pick, Kev, so I'll let you take this one.
I think the answer is pretty obviously yes. I mean, we talked about how bad Tannehill looks. We talked about how bad the Titans offense looks. They're not playing the Chargers every week, unfortunately, so it is going to be kind of not cute, I think. And I love Josh Downs' potential. I love the volume that he's getting early in the season. Brian, to me, this is a no-brainer. Get Treylon Burks off my roster.
I mean, I love Josh Downs, and this is not an indication of my lack of belief or of the talent of Treylon Burks, but I literally just told you how bad the Titans offense is. There's just not going to be opportunities for him. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't looked good in this. Nobody looks good. Chig Okonkwo was one of our picks for a possible breakout candidate. There's just nothing to go around. Stash Tajay Spears because I think he's going to be special, but otherwise stay away from this Titans offense. And Josh Downs, like you said before, Kev, I think he's just getting started.
Yeah, and being a slot weapon too. I mean, I love buying slot, especially in PPR. It's probably half-point PPR. That's what
most leagues are going to this year. Yeah.
But which is the right answer in my opinion. But in a PPR, especially, a player like Downs is just money in the bank.
And that's it. That is our waiver wire picks for the week. We keep it short and sweet. We're always going to try to keep it under 30 minutes. If you have any fantasy questions, make sure to stick Wednesdays, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Our fantasy Q&A show. It's definitely going to be the Buffalo Trio Kevin Phillip box. It's definitely going to be Rich Joe Dice, the Pro Football Demon. I'm going to try to come when I can, but you're going to get those 2 guys. Any and all fantasy football related questions answered for an entire hour leading right up to Thursday Night Football. Wait, no, Thursday, not tomorrow. That's right.
Yeah,
I said it was tomorrow.
Thursday.
The show is on Thursday before
and I
TNF.
can't stress enough how fun it is. We had like so many people in the chat. Everybody was going crazy. We had people, it was really fun. There was like Brian was the MC. He was trying to keep everybody in line. Me and Demon, we're kind of like the bad kids at school, and Brian's like the teacher who has
that
to
makes me like the
walk us
principal.
from classrooms. You're like our emotional support teacher. And so I want to thank Armand, Jonathan, 10-Foot Waves, and Joey Crack for being in the chat. You guys are awesome as always, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Real quick, just because Joe had asked to follow up, he asked, apologies for reaching too high for Treylon Burks. Will there be a QB change soon in Tennessee? Just to answer this one quickly, Kev, I think eventually they'll have to, because they're going to be in a place where they're not going to be competitive. So you might as well see what you have. I think we'll see both Malik Willis and Will Levis. Just why not? Right. But right now, there's no real upside to throwing those guys out there if they're not ready. The rest of your offense is poor. Your offensive line is not playing well. Why throw those rookies out there just to get pounded?
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm just going to throw this one out there for just in general, fantasy football, sunk cost fallacy. I know, Joe, it sucks. You reached high for him. You spent a lot of draft capital on him. But the minute the season starts, what you spent to acquire them goes out the window. He just is the asset that he is. And unfortunately, he's as expendable as I would say any of the people we talked about today. I would probably take any of the people we talked about today, Brian, over Treylon Burks right now, unfortunately. So prayers out. Sorry for the reach, Joe. It was a tough pill to swallow, but
fantasy football for you. It bites all of us sooner or later. Kevin, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for attending the NFL Week 4 Waiver Wire show. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. As I mentioned, stick around on Thursday before TNF for our fantasy Q&A show, a whole hour of answering all of your fantasy questions, start-sit questions, trade advice questions, ranking questions. You bring them, we'll have the answers. That's Thursday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Kevin, thank you for joining me as always.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you guys for sticking around and hanging out in the chat. We'll see you next time. Good luck on your week's matchup.